y'all, it's Kim. So this is the deposition for Leslie Wexner about his relationship with Epstein and the business ties, and if he's ever been with any or been introduced to any younger women, that kind of stuff. He's kind of minimizing, I think, his association with Epstein. Apparently, he said that Epstein or his wife discovered that Epstein was stealing from the businesses because he had the fiduciary duties and all that stuff with the like the limited brands, I guess, or he was somehow in his finances and was embezzling money, and then I think he paid a portion of it back. But anyway, they're just continuing to question him. We're just gonna do maybe about an hour of this because it's like 4 hours, almost 5 hours. And that's a long time to sit. So I'll record probably another hour of this and then maybe do some more recordings later in the week. But anyway, let's go and play this portion.
Interested in a polo horse, so that would have been the only exception.
Did Mr. Epstein ever request that you introduce him to Victoria's Secret models?
Never.
Oh, sorry. Trying to fix that. It's looking the way.
And I just want to clarify your testimony earlier, but did you ever receive any massages from any young woman or girl brought to you or by or introduced to you by Mr. Epstein?
Never.
We discussed Mr. Epstein's arrest previously, but I would like to return to it just to make sure the record is clear. In 2005, police in Palm Beach, Florida began investigating Epstein. In July 2006, Epstein was arrested for the first time for soliciting prostitution from minors. Prior to Mr. Epstein's arrest, were you aware of any investigation into Mr. Epstein?
Not that I recall.
When did you become aware of an investigation into Mr. Epstein?
Probably whenever it was in the press. I don't know when that was.
And you mentioned the press. Was there anyone that was a part of your business that may have alerted you to his arrest?
Could have been.
And for the record, did you have any knowledge of illegal activity by Mr. Epstein prior to his arrest in 2006?
The only I recall is my chief of staff told me, and I don't know, he knew press, whether it was the newspapers or radio or TV, that that Jeffrey had been accused, or a woman was suing him for being aggressive. And I remember calling him and saying, "What the hell is this?" And he said, "I was being shaken down by a hooker."
Yeah.
And I believed him. And I think the follow-up that conversation was, I hope, you're not bullshitting me. Because if it is, the party's over. He said, "Absolutely not. Do you think I'm stupid?"
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably what I would say to attorney or say to you or anybody that I worked with. If you do something off, you're out.
So after you had that initial conversation with him, did you discuss the allegations as they were being investigated with Mr. Epstein? Excuse me.
No, I don't think I discussed it. It was done, and I believe that he wasn't stupid.
And you mentioned your chief of staff. For the record, who is that?
His name is Bruce Saul, and I met him through an acquaintance.
The questions, okay. It's going to help if you answer the question that he asks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
We'll all get out of here a lot faster.
Did your chief of staff have any relationship with Mr. Epstein?
other than, so how do I answer it? I don't, none except if he would call him, I would know, everybody knew where I was all the time. So if somebody wanted to find me, would he call Bruce or call my admin? Where's Les? Because I try to be available to people, but I don't tell everybody where I am and where I'm going because I'm traveling so much. So it would be, I would guess, conversations. I'm speculating that those conversations might have happened.
For the record, you were surprised by Mr. Epstein's arrest?
Yes.
Do you recall people around you being surprised by his arrest?
Don't specifically recall. Probably at the time they were, but I don't remember it.
Do you recall whether anyone around you advised you that you should cut ties with Epstein after his arrest?
I'm going to instruct you not to disclose any communications you had with your wife or your lawyers in answering that question.
So are you asserting, for the record, attorney-client privilege?
Yes, that's exactly what we're doing.
Clear, the House does not recognize common law privileges, and so if you are asserting that in order for him to not testify to those, in order to preserve that, we may discuss it, may take that to the chairman for a ruling. It potentially may direct your client to answer those questions.
That's fine. The Supreme Court also made clear that those privileges do exist in the congressional context, and I doubt very much that whatever his answer would be to this is that important, but I'm directing him to preserve those two privileges, those two well-recognized common law privileges.
I forgot the question.
Did, after Mr. Epstein's arrest, did anyone around you advise you to cut ties with Mr. Epstein?
And I'm going to again arrange you to answer without discussing any communications you had with your wife or your lawyers in answering that question. So you can go ahead and answer.
Confused again. Did anybody? And the answer would be nobody. I can't remember anybody.
Did you instruct your companies to do an internal review of your company's relationship with Mr. Epstein at this time?
I probably would have, but I don't recall. That would have been anything that was untoward that happened in the business, around the business. I would always say, this has to be investigated. And I would always, in communities and in business, have the same attitude. But I don't specifically remember.
Were you suspicious of any others around Mr. Epstein that they may have aided in the solicitation of minors for prostitution when you learned of his arrest?
Can you repeat the question?
Let me clarify. Mr. Epstein had individuals such as Maxwell, Sarah Kellen, among others who have been identified as potential co-conspirators. Were there any individuals that you understood to be affiliated with Mr. Epstein that you may have suspected to have aided in his crimes?
No, because I don't recall any people around him and his business. My business was with him. I don't know my attorney's admin or who his associates are.
Mr. Wexner, we're approaching the end of our hour, so I will just ask you one final question before we take a break. With the benefit of hindsight, were there any things you witnessed or observed about Mr. Epstein that could have suggested he was trafficking and sexually abusing women?
Absolutely not. I've asked myself that question over and over, why I didn't see there should have been a clue or something that I should have picked up on. There's nothing I can recall, nothing, not even a clue of a clue. And I think the reason, in hindsight, and I think for the understanding to get to the bottom of what Jeffrey did, is to understand how great a con he was. Because that's the explanation I have to myself. How could I have never thought he was a thief? How could I never thought he was a pervert? All the terrible things. Never clue.
We will go off the record.
We can go on the record. Good morning, Mr. Wexner. My name is. I will be doing most of the questioning for the minority today. We appreciate your time. As you know, our conversation today will focus on your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We'll touch on probably your financial and business relationship with him. We'll also discuss your personal relationship with him. You already discussed with our colleagues the way that you originally met Jeffrey Epstein. I would just like to ask a couple of questions on that topic. When you first met Epstein, how did he originally present himself to you? What services did he say he was offering?
Well, when I first met him, he was just alone. He didn't represent anything, and I didn't ask anything. I was just meeting a friend's acquaintance.
As that business relationship became closer and you eventually hired him, I assume he pitched his services in some way. What was his way of framing what he was offering to you?
I think it was his experience at an industrial level, like working for a big company like Bear Stearns, and they had done personal work for the Rothschild family in France.
Personal wealth management, essentially?
I don't know.
We've seen some reports that he would present himself as a bounty hunter, that he would find people's missing money. Do you recall him saying anything like that?
No.
One of the articles that my colleagues already introduced, I won't make you look back through it, but it was the Vanity Fair article. I will just read you a paragraph out loud. It's the only paragraph I have a question about. But that article reported that during a conversation, Jeffrey Epstein asked Mr. Meister to introduce Epstein to you, Mr. Wexner. And Epstein told Meister that Epstein had learned that Wexner's current money manager was stealing from him.
Ooh.
And the article identifies Harold Levin, I think, as your previous financial advisor. Do you have any recollection of whether Mr. Epstein ever claimed that Mr. Levin was stealing from you?
Objection to the article on hearsay grounds. You can answer.
As I recall, Jeffrey never thought Harold was stealing, and I didn't think Harold was stealing.
Okay. Did anybody ever say that Harold was stealing?
No.
Okay. No recollection of that.
No recollection of that.
That article also describes a story where you sent Mr. Levin to meet with Mr. Epstein and just discuss an investment opportunity, but Mr. Levin came back to you and told you to stay away from Mr. Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any recollection of that type of a warning from Mr. Levin?
No.
Objection.
No.
When you initially hired Mr. Epstein, do you recall, and some of this may be repetitive, so you have my apologies, do you recall what year you initially hired Mr. Epstein?
No.
Would it be right to say that it may have been either 1989 or 1990?
Yeah, about then.
Do you recall anybody warning you not to get involved with Jeffrey Epstein when you first hired him?
No.
I'd like to talk about Epstein's roles and responsibilities while he worked for you. You touched on this in the last hour. The total amount of time that he worked for you, how long was that approximately? It started maybe in 1989 or 1990, and I think you testified it ended in 2000 and what year did you say?
They didn't.
Okay. Well, what year do you recall the relationship ending?
Could your statement help refresh your recollection?
Whatever. Yeah. But where I said in the statement would be the correct date, and so whatever period that 89 or 90 would have been about then. And it ended when it ended.
Was that upon his final plea in 2008?
Whatever I said in the statement is accurate. I remember this being concomitant with finding out he was stealing from us.
In terms of the different things or roles that he would play for you, is it right to say that he acted as an investment advisor or a money manager? What would be the right term for that role?
The term wasn't part of my vocabulary, but he was kind of like the family office manager. And so they oversaw investment, oversaw people getting paid, made sure taxes were done, and talked to accountants. Just I had, in hindsight, because I had done so well, and I was dating Abigail, and we were engaged, and I was married and running 20 businesses. I was very busy, and so all that just stuff that was in my personal life was either wasn't managed by me. It was like my admin was like it sounds kind of crazy, was the closest thing I had to any kind of supervision.
Would he be making investments on your behalf the way a traditional investment advisor would?
I must have known at the time. I don't recall specifically asking him about investment.
I would like to introduce Minority Exhibit A. And this is an article from the Wall Street Journal titled, "Epstein Flourished as He Forged Bond with Retail Billionaire."
Next door.
And you don't have to read through this whole article. It's just helpful to have it in front of us. But on the bottom of page 3, I will read just a single sentence to you. And the article, sure, it starts with the word soon. It's the very last sentence on the bottom of page 3. And that sentence, I'll read it out loud as well, says that soon Mr. Epstein was presenting Mr. Wexner with a variety of investments, including apartment buildings and a development involving a former post office building, says Mr. Morosky. And we understand that to be Robert Morosky, a former vice chairman of your company. Is that consistent with what you remember Epstein doing for you?
Objection, hearsay, you can answer.
No.
No. Okay. Do you have any recollection of Epstein presenting you with investment opportunities such as these?
I'm sure he did, but they weren't apartment buildings or post office. But it didn't, do
you remember?
No, I don't remember.
Is it that you don't recall at all, or that, as far as you recall, that statement is just not accurate?
Well, there's two parts of it. I'm reading this one, not accurate, and I fired Bob Morosky for bad behavior.
But as to the substantive part, is it that you don't recall whether or not Epstein would present you with these types of investments?
I do not recall.
Okay.
And the quote is from somebody that I fired.
Okay. In addition to the, I guess, family office role that you described, I'd like to ask about whether Epstein provided other services to you. We know that he provided some later clients with tax planning services. Did he ever do anything like that for you?
Must have, but I have no specific recollection. I mean, my tax attorneys, I'm kind of a model about who did what.
And so is it fair to say again that you just don't recall either way?
Yeah, I don't recall at all.
Okay. Separately from that, Mr. Epstein was a trustee for various trusts and charities of yours. I'd like to touch on both of those roles, starting with trusts. And so I will introduce Minority Exhibit B. And that article is from ABC News, and it's titled "Billionaire Businessman Leslie Wexner Refuses to Reveal Full Scope of Jeffrey Epstein's Alleged Multi-Million-Dollar Theft," dated January 23rd, 2020. And
It's January 25th.
oh, great. Thank you. Well, I have January 23rd.
Oh, I'm looking at the date in the upper right. You're right.
All
Under the byline is January 23rd.
There you go.
It's got two dates. I don't know which is correct.
All right. On page 3 of this article, and I'll let you take a moment, in the middle of that page, the article says that they identified nearly a dozen trusts connected to you. I don't think sure. It starts in the paragraph Bolsher and Boyd, in the middle of the page.
Okay. Who are those?
I think they're associated with ABC's investigative reporting team.
Thank you.
And it tells us that they found nearly a dozen trusts with names like health and science interests, arts interests, and community interests connected to Wexner that listed Epstein as trustee and received large gifts of stock in Wexner's company. So I'll stop there. Do you have a recollection of the trusts that are described here?
None.
None. And so do you have any recollection of Mr. Epstein's role with those trusts?
None.
Okay. We will come back to that, but I'd like to touch for a moment on Epstein's role with the Wexner Foundation. And I, for that, will introduce Minority Exhibit C.
He just looks like a confused old man.
And this document is titled Independent Review of Jeffrey Epstein's Involvement and Interactions with the Wexner Foundation. And the document is dated February 24th, 2020. I'm not going to ask you to read through this. It's a long document. I will point you to a specific part of it. But first, we understand this to be an independent review that was undertaken by a law firm at the request of the Wexner Foundation in the wake of Mr. Epstein's arrest in 2019. Is that also your understanding?
I never knew of it. I've looked at this, I'm laughing, because the address is 65 East State Street, and that was the address of my dad's first store when I was 13.
Okay. Well, so is the report unfamiliar to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Completely.
And I think page 4 of the report says that you were interviewed by the law firm for this report. Do you have any recollection of that?
Nope. None.
Do you have any reason to doubt the report that you were in fact interviewed for the report?
No.
Okay.
I don't remember it, so I can't doubt it.
Page 9 of the report simply tells us that Epstein, and I'll let you turn to it if you'd like, but it just tells us that Epstein was elected as a trustee of the Wexner Foundation in 1992, and that he remained a trustee until September 2007. Epstein would not have been the only trustee of the Wexner Foundation, correct?
Objection as to hearsay as to the document. The question is fine. Can you repeat it?
Sure. Would Epstein, did the Wexner Foundation have more than one trustee?
I'm sure it did, and I think there was a legal requirement to have 3. And I don't know that. I just think that.
On the next page, page 10, under the header number 2, there's a header that reads, Epstein played no role in the operation of the foundation's fellowships or other programs. And the first sentence afterwards says, based upon our review of foundation records and interviews with foundation leaders, we concluded that although a trustee, Epstein played no role in the management or administration of the foundation's operations or programs. Now, on that topic, I'd like to introduce one more single-page exhibit for you.
So I'm just going to object to this statement as both a statement and hearsay. But go ahead.
I think, as the majority general counsel noted, the objections have no legal grounding in this forum.
I'm making it for the record. It is a deposition, so I'm making an objection. That's all.
So is this
Just single page.
single page? And I'll give you a moment to look it over.
This is D.
That's D. I'll describe it briefly. This is
Give me a chance to read it.
Of course.
Thank you.
I think I just read it. I've never seen this before, but go ahead.
Oh,
Great.
Lord.
It's this email chain from 2006 between, starting with Peg Ugland, who we understand was the financial controller for your family office, a person named Darren, who we understand to be Mr. Epstein's lawyer, Darren Indike, and Jeffrey Epstein. And the chain appears to relate to a foundation grant. And the question is whether the funds should come from the Wexner Foundation or some other related entity. Epstein appears to make the decision that if the recipient is a U.S. charity, then the funds should come from the Wexner Foundation. I'll just represent to you, there are other emails with similar themes. This email chain seems to clearly show Mr. Epstein acting as a final decision maker with respect to the disbursement of Wexner Foundation funds. And that obviously does not square with findings in the independent report. So, having been interviewed for the report, my question is whether you had any understanding of Mr. Epstein playing this kind of role for the foundation.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
No problem.
Are you asking me, did Jeffrey decide that money should be given to Abeben? Or do I write a personal check or is it a foundation check?
It seems in this example, Mr. Epstein was deciding whether or not the funds for this entity should or should not come from the Wexner Foundation.
Or from someplace else, not whether the donation should be made itself.
Yeah.
I think that's the distinction he's trying to draw.
I had no recollection of where it came from. I regularly helped Abeben after he retired from government. And I probably would have started with writing a personal check, and then I would speculate how it was paid. I don't remember writing the check, but Eben was a very good friend, and he had no money. He worked for the government of Israel, and Social Security was, his income was nothing. He was living in public housing, and my sense was that it wasn't fair. So I took care of him privately and his wife Susie until they both died.
Did you have any knowledge that Mr. Epstein was acting as a final decision maker for whether or not to spend foundation funds?
Not at all. He would never have done that.
He does appear to have done it here.
As a decision maker, no, absolutely not. I wouldn't have thought it. Didn't know it. Wouldn't have thought it.
So this role would have, him playing this role would have occurred without your knowledge.
Objection. Seems like I got evidence.
It happened without my knowledge, but I did give money to my friend Eben and his wife Susan.
Okay. Thank you. I think we've had an additional member of Congress join us. If that individual could identify themselves, please.
Congress and state elections, congressional districts in Massachusetts.
Hello, unless.
I'd like to spend a little bit of time on the development of New Albany, and I know my colleagues also touched on that topic. Could you just briefly describe for us your role in the development of New Albany? I know it was substantial, so a brief overview.
It started out with me thinking I wanted to have a house in the country. And it began with thinking I would buy an old barn and restore it. And that'd be kind of a cool thing. And as I worked through the project, my personal project, I asked my friend Jack Kessler, who was a professional in the real estate business and a developer, what land cost and, what he thought of the idea. And then I got to thinking, do I really want to build a barn? And then I thought I was going to build a house. And I kept telling Jack about what I was thinking I was going to do, having not done anything. And it started out pretty modestly. I think I bought like a 30-acre farm, which is about a mile from here. And then which I thought was a good location. And over time, I kept thinking about it, decided that wasn't a good location. This was a good location. And in the conversations with Jack, he kept saying that these are good ideas. You're not overpaying for land, because this was something entirely new to me. And one day I said, Jack, if it's such a good idea, why don't you live here? And he said, I would, but my wife wouldn't move. And then one day he called up. He said, she thinks it's a good idea, and we're going to sell our house, and we'll build one near yours, which is the house that's half a mile away. And I said, if we're going to live here, do you think any of our friends might want to live out near us or acquaintances of his? And he said, yeah, I think a lot of people would like that. The idea of having more land around, and it's not that far from the airport, stuff like that. And that's how the idea began. And then the next idea was, how do you do it? And Jack is a professional, the only professional I know in the real estate business other than shopping center developers, relied on his judgment about prices we were paying and acquisitions, because I had a full-time job and I didn't know anything about this. And then I got to thinking one day, how do you do it? I mean, not acquire the land, how do you plan it? And I thought there's a lot of smart people at Harvard. So I made a cold call to the School of Architecture, talked to the dean. I said, I have this idea. You don't know me. Could you recommend some architects? And he said, I don't recommend architects to strangers in projects I don't know about. And we talked a while more, and he said, if you'll buy a day of my time, if you're really serious, I'll come out and look at it, because I don't know whether you're really serious about doing this. And then he gave me a list of architects, and I didn't know any of them. I'm going to keep going.
No, I think I've got the sense of it.
Yeah, it kind of just grew by topsy.
I appreciate it. You also touched on this earlier, but what was the role of the New Albany company in the development of the town of New Albany?
Well, it was just the name of the community, so we called it the company, because we were developing New Albany. If we had developed it in Poughkeepsie, it'd be called the Poughkeepsie Company.
Well, what was that, as far as you recall, Mr. Epstein's role in the development of New Albany?
None.
What was his role with the New Albany company?
As a fiduciary, my financial advisor, to understand what was going on financially. I thought I knew what was going on in our businesses, but we always had a CFO. So I'd rely on the CFO to do what the CFO did, because I did the marketing and the planning. But I didn't, every business had a CFO, every business had an overview. And I had a lot of complexity that I didn't realize at the time in my life. So it was either, somebody had to do this.
And there's paper. I don't want to throw paper at you if I don't have to, but I'll represent to you that yourself and Mr. Epstein were, at least at one point, co-presidents of the New Albany company. I'm happy to show that if that would be helpful. But I guess my question would be, what would his role have been as co-president of the New Albany Company?
I think I don't remember it, but if he did it, it was just, I don't know. But I was the president, chairman of the board, and then the CEO of a company. But I really just thought my job was to be the president, so that the titles wouldn't have meant anything to me.
It is right, I think, but you tell me that the purpose of the New Albany Company was to assist in the development of New Albany. Is that right?
It was more than that. New Albany was just a farm village, and I bought land here and developed it. Built the schools, built the fire station, built the police station, it did all the community public facilities, platted streets. I can remember, did all the drawings. So I was the master developer of New Albany as a community.
Did the New Albany Company have any purpose other than to assist in the development of New Albany?
No.
Okay. Mr. Epstein was at one point president of the New Albany Company.
Objection. I think you said he was co-president.
That's correct, co-president. But just so I understand it, your testimony is that Mr. Epstein played no role in the development of New Albany.
Absolutely no role. Okay.
Like to talk about the limited company. Was Mr. Epstein ever employed by the limited company or any of its affiliated entities?
Never.
Did Mr. Epstein ever have an informal role with the limited company or any of its affiliated entities?
Never.
Did he ever provide any services or advice to the company regardless of compensation?
Not that I recall.
The Vanity Fair article we looked at earlier, I'll just relay the anecdote. You're welcome to look at it if you want to. But it retells a story that in 1996, the Limited was preparing to spin off Abercrombie and Fitch on the New York Stock Exchange. And Epstein reportedly flew to Columbus and told your executives that he would decide the share price. Do you have any recollection of that occurring?
No, Neil, never.
And the article says that Tom Hopkins, who I think was the vice chair of the Limited at the time, told you at that point that Epstein was a con man. Do you have any recollection of that occurring?
No.
I'll note there's been a lot of reporting that Mr. Epstein held himself out as affiliated with Victoria's Secret. We will come back to that topic a little bit later. Were there any instances at all that you can recall in which Epstein got involved in the Limited's business affairs?
No.
In terms of Mr. Epstein's compensation, how was he compensated for his work for you?
I don't specifically recall, but I would guess fairly.
That should be more clear. Was he compensated with salary, or would it have been investment-based or securities or fee-based? Do you recall what was the way in which you would compensate him?
I don't recall.
We discussed earlier, I think, that the breadth of his theft from you, I think, has been estimated by your counsels to be the hundreds of millions. Do you recall approximately what Mr. Epstein's total compensation would have been in his time with you?
I'm sure I would have known them, but I don't recall.
I'd like to talk about Mr. Epstein's misappropriation or theft of your assets. And so I will introduce as Exhibit E So this is an excerpt from a memo that the Department of Justice wrote in December of 2019. And DOJ was assessing the extent to which people around Epstein might have been liable for their conduct. Okay. The memo is long. I've given you only the excerpt that relates to you. There's nothing else in this document that relates to you directly. The section that I've given you on the second and third pages of the document, 65 and 66 at the bottom. This is a summary of a proffer that your lawyer or lawyers gave to DOJ in July of 2019. With respect to Epstein's theft from you, in the second half of the second paragraph, I'll read it out loud. Your attorneys, quote, explained that over his years handling Wexner's finances, Epstein stole or otherwise misappropriated several $100 million from Wexner.
Damn.
That misconduct, together with the fees that Epstein paid himself for his services to Wexner, appears to account for virtually all of Epstein's wealth. So several $100 million is a large but not precise figure. To the best of your knowledge, how much exactly did Epstein steal?
I don't know. I don't think I'll ever know.
Damn, that's pretty bad.
I'd like to try to understand a little bit better how Epstein was able to steal or misappropriate that many funds. One way, reportedly, is that the trusts that we described earlier, which I know you said you have no recollection of, I just want to be thorough. The trusts that he was trustee of would receive gifts of limited stock, and he would then sell that stock on the New York Stock Exchange and then use a portion of those proceeds for his own personal purposes. Do you have any knowledge or recollection of what I just described?
I'm effing surprised. I'm shocked. I didn't know this.
And is it that you have not previously heard what I just described?
I never heard of it. Never saw this document.
And it was publicly reported, I think, by ABC several years ago, but not ever on your radar.
Never.
The report indicates that it was more than or around $1.3 billion of stock that Epstein moved around that way. Not that he kept all of that money for himself, but the total amount of stock sales was over $1 billion. You have no knowledge or awareness of that.
I don't know the amounts. The only trust that I'm aware of is my wife set up trusts for our kids, so however she set them up in the amounts, I have no idea what's in them then or now.
And then separately, it's been reported that around $20 million of stock and cash were contributed by two of your charitable foundations to one of Epstein's charities. Do you have any knowledge or awareness of that?
Effing shocked. I'm appalled. I never heard that. Did you know that? No. Except joke.
Thank you, Director. We have some additional questions from some of the members here. I'll start. I want to just go back to something. Now, earlier in the deposition, Director, you said that you were never aware of Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell sexually abusing minors or adult women. Is that correct?
I know Jeffrey was accused by an adult woman of abusing her, and that's the only thing that I knew until the shit hit the fan.
So prior to becoming public knowledge, you were never aware of Jeffrey Epstein?
Absolutely not.
Were you ever
wait till he finishes asking the question?
Sorry,
the court reporters will get mad at you if you don't.
Okay, so I think you said that you were not. Were you ever aware of Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell sexually abusing men or boys?
No.
Okay. How about trafficking men or boys?
No.
Prior to it becoming public knowledge, were you ever aware of Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell arranging for a prominent person to have sex with another person?
Never.
Okay. Can I ask you, Mr. Wexner, were you ever with Jeffrey Epstein in the presence of women or men in bathing suits or underwear?
No,
Never in the presence of women or men in bathing suits or underwear with Mr. Epstein?
no. I mean, if he was at the fashion show, he would have seen women in underwear. But you know,
So you're saying that if he was at a fashion show with you through the fashion business,
Yeah.
it may have been the case, but could it have been the case that you were with Mr. Epstein maybe prior to the fashion show or in another space?
No, absolutely no.
So did any women or men ever model clothes for you in the presence of Mr. Epstein?
No,
So not at a fashion show and not in a private home or residence?
it's being in the audience of the fashion show would have been the only possible time.
Are you aware of any individual that has given either a public statement or any information of anyone that has actually said that they believe you were in with Mr. Epstein in the presence of women or men modeling clothes or underwear?
I think the answer is no, but I'm not sure I understand the question.
I'll move on.
It's about as clear as fucking mud.
Just a
Sorry.
direct question to you, sir. Also, did you yourself ever have a sexual encounter with any individual that was introduced to you by Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell?
No,
Did you personally have a sexual relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?
no,
Are you aware that others have claimed that you had a sexual relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?
no,
Did you ever suspect, sir, if Jeffrey Epstein ever had any sexual relationships with other men?
no,
But since it being public knowledge, you are now aware that Jeffrey Epstein had inappropriate sexual relationships with other women. Is that correct?
Women or men?
yes, what I know from the press, the stories, yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. I'd like to ask you about Epstein's properties and your visits to them. Of course, Epstein in New York and New Albany houses were originally yours, we discussed earlier, and you also had a house in Palm Beach. Is that correct?
Objection. I think he testified that the house in New Albany was Mr. Kessler's. Right, I'm just trying to clarify.
No, thank you. And the house in Palm Beach. Is there a house that you had in Palm Beach? Sorry.
I did have a house in Palm Beach
Okay. Did you ever visit Epstein's home?
once.
Can you tell us about that visit?
He bought a house in Palm Beach and he wanted me to see it. I think he wanted me and Abigail to see it. And we flew down on like a Sunday morning with friends of ours from Columbus. Looked at the house, congratulations. Got back on the plane and came home. So and it was pretty modest house.
Did
Nothing
you ever,
special.
one trip, in that trip, did you ever witness Donald Trump at the house?
Oh, Lord.
No,
Do you recall any other prominent figures at the Palm Beach house?
no, it was just
Of
Jeffrey and
course
my
they had to
friends,
go to Trump.
Who were the other friends?
Julie and Steve Tuckerman, Dr. Stephen Tuckerman and his wife Judith. I'm sure they'll be delighted about that. No, they won't be.
Did you ever visit the island in West Virgin Islands?
Yes,
Can you tell us about those visits?
yes. Jeffrey invited us to see it, and we were on a boat, and we went to the island with our kids. So Abigail, myself, and I can't remember how many kids we had, 2, 3, or 4, but at least 2, walked around for a while, left. Probably an hour visit.
Okay, an hour. So on that trip, do you recall seeing any prominent figures on the island?
No, and it was a pretty crummy island.
Okay. Did you ever visit his ranch in New Mexico or his house in Paris?
Do you want to break those up for clarity?
Did you ever visit his ranch in New Mexico?
It was the same kind of thing. He wanted Abigail and I to see his ranch. We flew down there and drove around for an hour or two, got back on the plane and came home. And I don't think he had a house.
You would fly just to go visit for 1 hour.
Yeah, I would fly to Europe for 1 hour on business trips. As crazy it is, getting on the plane and going places for me was like going to the mailbox. And he didn't have a house on the ranch, and I never knew he had a house in Paris.
And in the ranch in New Mexico that you spent an hour at, were there any common figures or anyone that you recall else being there?
No, as I recall, it was just Abigail, myself, and I think he'd rented a trailer, so it wasn't a house. And that's all I know.
Okay. And so to clarify, you didn't know he had a house in Paris, so you did not ever go to the house in Paris.
I didn't know he had a house in Paris, and therefore he didn't go to the house in Paris.
Okay. During any of your visits to any of these properties, did you ever see any girls or women that looked unusually young?
No,
Did you ever hear rumors of any girls or women who looked unusually young visiting Epstein's property?
no, never did.
During any visits to Epstein's property, did you ever see photographs or other images of women or minors?
Not that I recall.
Did you ever become aware of Epstein transporting women or minors using assets that you owned, whether that's a plane that you owned or a yacht that you owned?
Absolutely not, no.
And did you ever hear of any rumors related to Epstein's personal life or his sexual activities?
No.
Rumors that you may have heard in the grapevine.
It's kind of ambiguous. I mean, but I'll answer you. And this, I think you're asking an ambiguous question. I would go to visit David Gergen at Harvard because I was very interested in the Center of Public Leadership. And David would say, Jeffrey was up here. Your friend Jeffrey was up here. And he was visiting Henry Rosofsky, who was the dean of Harvard College, who was visiting Larry Summers, and he always has an admin with him, or a girl. He says a woman could be more accurate. He said he never travels by himself. So,
and I think that's what I'm referring to. I mean, I don't think I get through a day without hearing a rumor about somebody. So I imagine somebody close to you probably heard.
No, but it wasn't. It was more like he was traveling with his admin or his secretary or his lady lawyer or his lady accountant. That's what I would hear, but it wasn't. I never heard rumors about Jeffrey was traveling around with a girlfriend for this, or a girl was like it was part of his social visits or something. It was always if I heard, it was in reference to work, his work.
Yes, thank you. I actually want to start a little bit
of Trump.
Really quickly. Dr. Mark Landon, are you familiar with him? Dr. Mark Landon?
Yes.
Okay. He was paid by Epstein on your behalf to consult on biomedical investments. Is that correct?
I just heard about that. I didn't know that until maybe the last few days.
Okay, so with you knowing Dr. Mark Landon, are you aware as to whether or not Dr. Landon ever was paid to render medical services to any of the alleged victims of Jeffrey Epstein?
No.
What is your relationship with Dr. Landon?
Abigail had a complicated pregnancy, and their general obstetrician, I believe, referred her to Mark Landon. He is an obstetrician, and that's how I met him. And he delivered our children
Okay.
And so my relationship with him is my wife's doctor.
Did you ever introduce him to Jeffrey Epstein?
No,
All right. Did you ever spend time with Epstein and Donald Trump?
together?
Yes.
Of course, she goes right for Trump.
I would answer this question accurately. I would go to some of the Victoria's Secret fashion shows. It was very important to the brand. At some of the fashion shows, Jeffrey was there, and some Trump was there. And I remembered because Trump would always introduce himself to me, and I always thought it was kind of odd that he was at the fashion show because he had nothing to do with fashion. So the coincidence of them being together at an event, it could have been that, but I have no specific recollection. Never had a social or like a drink or a cup of coffee, something that, that would put them together.
Okay, so just to clarify, because I want to make sure we're clear on the record, you're saying that you can recall instances potentially where Epstein and Trump were together and you were
That's
in
not what he
presence,
said.
or just a random scenario where Epstein may be there, Trump may be there separately, and then you would.
It would be accurate. That would be accurate if it happened, but I have no specific recollection.
Okay. Did you ever see or become aware of President Trump having a sexual relationship with a person who was introduced to him by Epstein or Maxwell?
No.
Has Donald Trump ever discussed Jeffrey Epstein with you?
No.
Did Jeffrey Epstein ever discuss Donald Trump with you?
Oh Lord, she's so stupid. I'm so glad she's losing her seat. I hope she doesn't get in the Senate.
Describing he would name drop it. So he would say things like, I know President Clinton, or I know the Pope, or I know God, or I know you. It was that kind of name dropping, but never, I can't remember specific place, but Jeffrey dropped a lot of names.
Okay. So to clarify, you believe he specifically dropped Donald Trump's name?
No, I'm saying it could have, but I don't remember.
Okay. Did Epstein ever share any information with you about Donald Trump's sexual activity?
Oh my God.
Do you have a relationship with Donald Trump?
No.
But you've met him before.
Yes, I mean he just said he met him, but
He introduced himself to me at the fashion show a couple of times, but I wouldn't say, hello, how are you? Like you say, Matt, like we knew each other. We don't know each other. I'd be shocked if he remembered me.
Okay. And I know that you specifically mentioned the island, that you have been to Jeffrey's Island.
God, I can't stand
do you
her.
recall seeing any of those persons that Jeffrey Epstein would name drop while you were on his island?
No, nobody was there but Abigail, myself, Jeffrey, maybe somebody cutting grass or something. There was a maintenance person, I think. I don't specifically recall. I know for sure I was there. Abigail was there. Jeffrey was there.
And there wasn't anything abnormal about the appearance of the home on the island, and the reason that I asked, just to give you clarification on what I mean by abnormal. We've heard reports of people being thrown off when they walked into his home in New York because there was a massage table that was just sitting randomly in the middle of a room. Did you see anything like that when you visited any property that belonged to Jeffrey Epstein?
But first to clarify, when we visited the island, there was like a Pueblo building, like maybe a one room and a bathroom or something. It was pretty crummy. And the island was crummy. But there were no trees, there was no sand, there was no beach. It was just was a kind of peculiar thing. It was an island, but it was like a pile of rocks. It was just, I was kind of shocked that it was, that anybody would buy it for any purpose. As far as seeing things, you know, I never was in the house. You know, I never did his house in New York. The house in Florida, we were there after he bought it, because I mentioned with the couple said never saw a massage table or anything.
Well,
Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you, Mr. Wexner, for your ability to answer a lot of questions. I think when you meet the survivors, it becomes incredibly personal. So
I'm gonna go ahead and stop it here, and then we'll just play some more later. But anyway, you got a good idea of the questioning of Les Wexner, what his relationship was. Of course, they have to bring up Donald Trump, and it's like, it's not all about Trump. Oh my gosh, there's so many other people. I mean, from what I understand, Trump did kick him out of Mar-a-Lago, but I mean, whatever, whoever's involved needs to be held accountable. That's all there is to it. But yes, I'm going to stop it here. Y'all have a good afternoon. See y'all later. Bye.